Because of the following special program, Private Benjamin will not be presented this evening.
I just realized we're going to have to update that intro. It's missing a very important
I was sitting there going, "Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here?" And then I realized, no, you launched another show.
I should have gotten that done in time. I didn't think about it. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Misti Media Live. I am Jay Hartman, editor-in-chief, and look at that. There seems to be a slight change to your screen today, Linda. I believe that used to say author. What's that word that starts with E? That's let me sound it out. Editor? Is that editor?
Uh-huh.
Is that an
editor.
email? That's an email address for you at Misti Media. Does that mean you're officially a type of editor for Misti Media?
It is. And how am I going to live with myself? Author and editor battling away. Oh wait, I'm always battling away with myself.
I'm very excited, folks. Today is the first episode with the lovely Linda K. Hardie in her official position as managing editor of Picarones Press, our children's book imprint. We up until now we had released maybe one or two titles. I don't think we have more than two titles at the moment at Picarones. The third one's about to come out here in the next 2 days. Linda has a ton of experience in working with kids books. I think we might have addressed this on a previous episode on the previous episode. But Linda and I talked about it more, and there's honestly just nobody better to come in and see all of our children book department move into reality, which is really super exciting. So, Linda,
I'm very excited.
Looking down my checklist of things that the late Sandra Murphy really, really wanted, Linda in this position was one of those things at the top of Sandy's list. And so it really nice that we still continue to honor Sandy and honor her wishes, because she'd make my life a living hell from the great beyond if I did not. So yeah, you're only getting it over a dead woman. I hope you're happy. No, you got it on your own merits, kid.
And if she weren't dead, she'd Never mind.
Yeah,
I'll try if I go there.
But I'm really glad to have you on board in that position. And of course, we still have Walt Boyes and Joy Ward, who are running Nazca Press, the sci-fi, fantasy, and horror imprint. For the time being, I am heading up White City Press, which is our mystery imprint, and the extremely soon to be launched Miraflores Nights, which is our romance and erotica imprint, is going to be coming online here. We just posted a submission call for the first anthology to come out from that press.
Right, yeah.
Which is very exciting. So yeah, time goes by and you don't see us, but we're around. We're around and still doing stuff in between those 2 weeks. It's been a crazy 2 weeks, Linda. There has been, my goodness. I mean,
it's just been 1 week since we did a.
Oh my God, that's right. It has only been 1 week, hasn't it? Jeez.
It seems like 2 weeks and 1 week and
holy crud, you're right.
And an Escher painting where we're walking upstairs down.
It's funny you say that. I was just thinking the exact same thing. It was making me think of like, I had, they stole that in the movie Labyrinth, from Escher, the whole thing of the steps that are always either always going up or always going down. And I told somebody in a post today on Facebook that it was, I needed somebody to check the brakes on this car because we're speeding so fast. I'm worried somebody's cut the brake lines. July 1st,
brakes.
July 1st, I took over as president of Writers and Publishers Network, a nonprofit organization for bringing everybody from the publishing industry together and networking and education. Hello, Carol. So I mean, it's we had that. We have you taking over with Picarones. We launched the Night Shift last night. The new discussion group for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and authors and anybody looking to build a community that's supportive of what they're doing. Carol says hi to Miss Linda.
Hi, Carol.
Carol, if you coming in, you may not have seen that Linda has been promoted to managing editor at Picarones Press, our children's book imprint. So big talent coming in there, which is really cool. Regina, hello, Miss Regina. Good to see you,
Regina.
So yeah, crazy week. I'm really looking forward to July 16th when I'm taking a week off from the day job and focusing just on the publishing and everything going on with Misti Media and getting us all prepared for the second half of the year. And God willing, and the creek don't rise, I'm gonna be able to take off for maybe a week at the end of the year and not do anything and just be able to sit back and think about all the good stuff coming in 2027. But I will say we're way ahead of with our growth. We're way ahead of where I was with Untreed Reads at this same point in time when we started that company. I mean,
and there you didn't have a full-time outside day job, did you? Full-time?
Yeah. Well, I didn't at first because we had investors who insisted that if I was truly, they were only going to invest if I quit my day job and really showed my devotion to the business. So I gave up all my benefits. I think that was the last time I had medical insurance, was like 15 years ago.
No.
Well, and
who needs it?
And the amusing part, of course, was that that was the requirement. But then my business partner at the time felt that there wasn't enough money to pay me, so I ended up having to go back and get a part-time job eventually. Anyway, Carol, don't worry about that. I just installed Nightbot, and I think I need to figure out how to slow him down. So that we don't have a whole lot of emotes going on. I'm learning my way around Nightbot. I need him for my other channel, and I'm still learning the curves on some of this plugin stuff. Every week it seems like I add something to this. And last week we didn't have a banner. Last week we didn't have our email addresses. So I wake up every day and go, how can I be more like Johnny Cajun Roots Reseller? And then I'm like, well, what would Regina do? And then I figure out how to plug it all into whatever we're doing. So when I grow up, I want to be just like them. So uni. Oh my goodness.
How many barrels of coffee did you drink last night that you're still buzzing from it after?
You know what? Honestly, I was kind of out of it last night. I think it showed. I think it showed that I was a little low energy last night. But you know what? It was one of those things, and Johnny gave me a little bit of a pick me up this morning, just to remind me, hey, it's new. It'll take a while to find its footing, just like this show did.
Yeah,
we weren't a huge hit right off the bat. So that's the way these things go. So I am happy to say that for once I get to shut up for most of this show.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna.
For once, people don't have to listen to my damn voice because we got you, and this is a test. This is how you pass your children's book editor exam. Is with your oral presentation today, and trust me, Carol knows all about oral presentation. I'm just saying. Hello, Miss Jennifer. Hello.
Oh yeah. I got over all that, doing oral presentation fright. I got over that decades ago.
So, one of the things that we were looking at was that I wanted to have a children's book division, and I did not want to do picture books. And the main reason why I didn't want to do picture books was there's a tremendous amount of expense that goes into the printing of color books.
Beautiful color pages, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've experienced that. You have your picture book there.
Oh, I always have that. I have all my books within reach. Oops, that's not mine. That's one that I enjoy. But yeah, here's my picture book.
Oh, Jennifer, I'm glad you were there. I wish I had known. I probably would have felt better. So a picture book like this that Linda had done is a small fortune to produce. I mean, even if you oh my gosh, Ellen's here too. Hello, everybody. This is so awesome. I'm so glad to see all of you. It's really expensive to produce picture books, and the return on investment is really, really tricky because it is such a competitive market. There are 1 billion and one picture books out there. So not only is it expensive, but trying to find a foothold in that particular market's really difficult. So I had made the decision that I wanted to focus when it's beginning reader books, they're called chapter books. And then you kind of, from there, they go into middle grade and young adult. There's another category just above that called new adult, which sort of straddles the line between teenager and adult. So we want to make sure that we were well-versed in what's actually happening out there in the market. I used to work for one of the best children's bookstores in the entire country called The Reading Bug, which is out of San Carlos, California. They're also one of the few children's bookstores to do a subscription service. So if you folks ever get a chance, please do check out The Reading Bug. They're online, they do ship, and they're amazing. But Linda, you had the opportunity to actually listen to a seminar about the state of children's books. And I'm going to let you take over from here. Michael says, what is the adultish category? I think that's where I fit. I throw you
new adult.
Michael. Yeah, Michael, I throw you to new adult. Not quite ready for the adult stuff. There you go. So
yeah,
Linda,
basically that's kind of a continuation of young adult for people in their 20s.
There you go, Michael. We'll pretend you're in your 20s. So Linda, tell everybody kind of what this seminar, who put on this seminar, and what did they cover? What was the importance of it?
Well, this is from SCBWI, which is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, international group. I mean, chapters and members all over the world, literally all over the world. And it's been, gosh, how long has it been around? I've belonged to it for 30 years. I'm pretty sure it's 30 years this year. Yeah. Anyway, but the group has been around just for many decades, and it links children's writers and illustrators and translators, and ones that are published and ones that are not published. And there's a lot of programs and stuff for people to learn how to get your writing and how to improve your writing and get out there in the community and get out there and get published and all that good stuff. And that's basically why I've got the knowledge that I have is from this group, from different kinds of seminars and classes and workshops and conferences. SCBWI does a huge conference in New York. Let's see, New York in the winter and Southern California in the summer, something like that. Pop quiz. Oh no, I'm not prepared. But in-person ones. There are also online virtual conferences and all sorts of resources and activities. And this particular webinar is one that they do annually. And the resources include also ebooks of information that writers need. And the woman that was putting this on, that was a host of this, named Deborah Halverson, and she does the Essential Guide to Publishing for Children, which is a book that's out in ebook, so that it's very easy to distribute for SCBWI. You go into your account and you go click and download it. And it's got how to write query letters, how to do this and that, market news of the big publishers, mostly, and just all sorts of wonderful stuff. And so she talks to all sorts of editors and at publishing companies and agents, literary agents, and bookstores and booksellers, all sorts of people, to get an ear for what's going on. And this particular state of the children's book publishing market is to see what's going on just beginning into 2026, because here we are in July. And
so is this something that gets updated yearly? Like, does
yes.
She come back and do it? She comes back and
yes.
kind of brings up the state of the market each year.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So
yeah, and
so
then
some people need to stay on top of.
Yeah, and the book, and another reason to have it as an ebook, the book, the Essential Guide to Publishing for Children, it is updated annually. And in one of the handouts she had was a few of the markets that had changed since the 2026 version of the book came out. There was a handful of markets where, something closed down and something changed hands and things like that.
And is this a reference that is used internationally? Is it just cover U.S. markets?
It's mostly U.S. markets. I'm trying to think if it's North American or just U.S. I haven't looked that deeply into all of the market news in the publication, so I don't remember exactly what, but the organization is international and does work with international publishers and agents and markets of all sorts, and writers and all that are professionals. And I attended this webinar last year, and so exciting, and all this good stuff going on. And this year I'm looking at it with a different eye, because hey, I'm going to be acquiring manuscripts. What do I want to get? And
I should tell you, Linda, that quite a few of the people that are in our audience are resellers, and so they're often going out and they're looking for books that will that they're going to have an easier time reselling. And several of them will actually be participating in the Misti Media Book Fair on August 8th. And we'll be bringing books. So the information you're providing today is going to be really useful to them, so that when they're out thrifting or picking, they kind of will have an idea of what's popular out there in what's being read out there, so they don't accidentally pick up stuff that they're going to sit on.
Yeah, and the good news, I mean, like, spoiler alert, but good news is the children's book publishing market is still doing a good job, is still going reasonably strong, because traditionally the children's book market has always stayed better than the general market for adults and such, because, and I don't know if anybody's done a definitive study, but I mostly it's because parents want their kids to do better than them, so they, if they're not readers, they want to make their kids be readers, to have the opportunities to get into the good schools and to go to the college or to go to trade schools or whatever, where you can read and learn and do what you want to do and get better. And so the kids' book market tends to suffer less,
right,
when economic times are hard. And
I should also add that entertainment in general succeeds when times are tough. So if you look back at like the Great Depression or the
pandemic,
right? It's always books, movies, music that continue to trend upwards because it's a reasonable cost item, to be able to entertain,
rather than taking a vacation to France.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so some of the figures, just throw out a few figures. I'm not going to bombard with figures because they just kind of dance around my face and sneer at me. I'm a writer, not a mathematician.
I always say there's a reason why my degree is in literature.
Yeah, I did do well in math, but anyway, so the Association of American Publishers they track about 1,400 publishers on a long-term basis, and the Ms. Halverson's figures show that on a 5-year, they have a 5-year upward trend going into the first quarter of 2025. That nonfiction sales were up 1% and fiction was up 20%.
Wow.
In 2026, nonfiction went up 37.4% for the first quarter, and then the overall for children's books was 9.1%.
That's
nonfiction just went right up through the
crazy increase on kids nonfiction. Like in all my years, I've never heard of a jump that high.
Kids nonfiction went up like the MythBusters water heater growing through their roof.
Do they know what's driving that nonfiction?
Let me see.
You're so funny because you got all these notes on the back of your paper.
And who knows?
I'm sure glad I got you to write down your credit card information on the back of the form before we went on the air. I'm sure nobody noticed.
Exactly. Because I don't remember for sure if we did talk about that.
That's all right though. That's still a good tip for everybody out there, is that kids nonfiction is exploding. I'm guessing it's going to be a lot of biography and because
biographies and historical.
Yeah, that's what we used to,
Mysteries.
that's what we used to see a lot of in terms of kids nonfiction sales at the Reading Bug was a lot, especially when kids had projects to do and things like that. But it was history and sports were two really big nonfiction, and science were the big nonfiction categories that I remember running into. But still, that's a crazy increase because there's no adult category that has grown by that kind of a percentage. If anything,
Well,
most of the adult categories have decreased.
And in adult books, nonfiction's always been on too,
but
but
it's certainly
the
not getting that
nonfiction
kind of
is
growth.
yeah. So let's see then. Oh, what am I doing there? What am I doing? So anyway, yeah, nonfiction up, fiction down a teensy bit, paperbacks down a teensy bit, hardcovers down a decent amount, audiobooks up a lot.
Even
digital
for
audiobooks.
Even for kids.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I'm always thinking, like, how do you get a kid to sit still long enough to listen to an audiobook? I mean, I don't travel enough to listen to them, and I can't just sit at a desk and listen to an audiobook.
You don't have to sit still. Because I mean, the streaming music services have ebooks and ebook things, and I've done so much the past few days that I don't know if this is from.
Well, now you got me thinking. I think we need to be looking at asking for audiobook rights when we do when we're accepting manuscripts. I think I hadn't originally thought much about audio for kids, but
yeah, but kids younger and younger have the phones, and then you don't need to sit still. You just put in some buds and run around and read.
So are we thinking the audiobook is primarily for what, middle grade and higher?
I would say so, because I have seen kids as young as 2 years old with their own cell phones. Also, they make tablets for the toddlers and other small people, which are kind of bulletproof looking, maybe almost. Since they kind of are roughed up, but yeah, I would say middle grade and up.
And most of audiobook has gone digital. So I mean, for the most part, I don't, back in our day, you were buying, books on tape and things like that. But those sections in the stores have almost completely vanished.
Yeah, because now it's almost completely, if not completely, the digital. Because you can get audiobooks from your library, just like you get ebooks, and you can get them through the music services. I'm not going to publicize any of those people, those rich people, but the rich people streaming services, they have podcasts and audiobooks and stuff, and so there are a lot of ways to get them.
I mean, the library. So if you have a library card, I mean, Libby from Overdrive, Libby has plenty of audiobooks that you can check out. Hoopla, which is the other big vendor for libraries, has an amazing selection of audiobook. And a lot of stuff that you wouldn't find in other places. Lori J, hello, sweetie. So good to see you. So what is it? What categories are driving? Is it middle? Who's driving the car right now? Is it middle grade? Is it young adult?
No, actually, it's kind of young adult, because I mean, young adult got that big boom of the post-apocalyptic girls, teen girls saving the world genre a number of years ago, and the big super duper blockbuster movies and all that.
So you go back as far as Twilight on that stuff, sparkly vampires and all that stuff. But I mean, that was
I was thinking more Hunger Games, because that's good writing.
Yeah, and I guess Harry Potter has sort of straddled that line of middle grade and young adult.
Yeah, and that's one, and that's the thing that's the exception that makes the rule, because everybody thinks, oh, look at how look at how fat those Harry Potter books were. I can write a book that fat and call it a middle grade. Well, not
Yeah.
always.
And
Depends on your
resellers, I will tell you, if you are able to get a hold of hardcover copies of Harry Potter and as a complete set and in good shape, they are still worth a slew of money. They have never gone down in value. The hardcovers are still retain most of their value for resale. They're still absolutely sellable.
Here's where I've got the some more information about the audio is that bookshop.org that brings together the indie
We love
bookstores.
them.
And they started doing ebooks, having ebooks available from those. And also they are working with one of the big streaming music services that people listen to audiobooks on. And if you want to buy, if you're reading, listening to an audiobook through that service and you think, I got to have it in paperback, you can just click and it'll buy it from bookshop.org for you, from, indies. And they are growing really big. Bookshop.org is also partnering with Draft to Digital to increase the print on demand so that they can work with the self-published authors and other and small presses and stuff.
There was an article just yesterday on an update because bookshop.org was supposed to be partnering with Kobo for ebooks, and the timeline kept getting changed as to when that was going to be implemented. And now, as of apparently a day or two ago, they say that Kobo should be integrated quite possibly this year, if not early 2027. The reason why we like bookshop.org so much is that when you open an account over there to buy your books, you can choose which independent bookstore gets a percentage of your sale. So if your local bookstore doesn't carry on the shelf Misti Media titles, for example, but you still want to support us and you want to support your local bookstore, you can. You just go to bookshop.org, sign up for your account, and there's a thing at the top that asks you to specify which bookstore you'd like to support, completely searchable by your city or your zip code. You select it, pick the books you want to buy. Bookshop.org does the rest. They make sure you get your book, and they make sure a percentage of your sale goes to your community and helps support the independent bookstore in your area that you chose. Freaking-tastic organization. We are big supporters of them.
Yeah, and they're saying that overall ebooks are on a steep decline, except for kids and YA. Those ebooks are still big because I guess kids are running around with their phones and reading books on their phones.
It's one of the reasons why when we opened Misti Media, we decided to do print right along with the ebooks, because I noticed a trend as my time was coming to an end at Untreed Reads that things were swinging back towards print. The belief had always been that ebooks were going to somehow take over, and yet it never really caught on the way everybody expected it to. I mean, things like the Kindle made it easier, although Amazon has now made it ridiculously hard to buy ebooks and to enjoy ebooks, which I'm sure is not helping things any. But print has made such a resurgence, and particularly with the current generations that are looking for more tangible experiences. These are the same people that are now going back to collecting CDs and cassettes.
And because if the rich people want to take away my ebooks, they just go and suck it away.
Yeah.
If they want to take away well, you don't want to see this. It's everywhere. I mean, you can see small. If they want to do that, they have to break into my house. And in that case, I can usually get the local cops to, away. But if they want to suck them off of my Kindle, which it's dead, Jim, then they'll suck it off my Kindle. Same with the music. And
I mean, you have no control.
Right over here is a teensy tiny amount of my CDs. I have boxes of those, books too, but yeah, a book. If I have a book, you can't take it away from me. You can't expurgate it. You can't go through and say, okay, let's take out any reference to, and then have it go into everybody's books as a different thing. You know, you can't rewrite these books. You can rewrite. Anyway, so yeah, and one of the things, getting back to the kids' books, Halverson talked about the Circana book scan, said that that for May of this year, print books for kids and young adults were up 8%, and it's a lot of it is due to media attention, with parents focusing on kids, getting kids to read, and also wanting to lower screen time, you know, like online screen time, but you know, books on screen, yeah. And then also, you know, that issues of child development, the upward growth is expected to continue. People are prioritizing summer reading, and I'm just waiting for somebody to pick up that old Pizza Hut, you know, book summer reading club.
Can I just tell you, I have heard more about this Pizza Hut summer reading challenge, especially from, you know, I'm a Gen Xer, and I've been hearing this in a lot of Gen X groups. I, for the life of me, cannot remember ever hearing about this Pizza Hut reading challenge until like the last year or so. It was not a part of my childhood.
It wasn't a part of my childhood because it didn't happen until I was an adult. But I remember it because it's like, it didn't happen until I was an adult. I could have eaten tons of pizzas because I was reading I was reading 1 or 2 books a day all summer long. Sometimes
are school summer reading lists still a thing? Do schools still do them?
Yeah. A lot of schools do still do them. Well, school librarian budgets were, teacher budgets were, you know, there's a lot of budget cutting going on, and that does figure too. So, I do want to, I want to talk about that a little more in a minute, but I did want to go back to the indie bookstores again. That the American Booksellers Association says in 2025, 422 new independent bookstores opened up across the United States, 31% increase over 24.
Good for them.
Here in Northern Nevada, we have that's one of the things I was scribbling on the back of this, trying to remember the names of the bookstores, because you try
in your undisclosed location in Northern Nevada.
Yeah. Reno, Sparks, Carson City, you know, all the areas around here. There are I think there are 7 or 8 independent bookstores, and that doesn't count the Christian bookstores, you know, the Mormon bookstores and the pagan bookstores. And well, I don't know if there's more than one. No, yes, there is. There are at least 2 pagan ones. But the religious ones and the spiritual ones, and
see, Las Vegas is a book desert. You know, people don't come to Las Vegas to read. So, you know, I think we have 2 Barnes and Nobles in town in the entire city, and I think I know of 1 used bookstore, and that's kind of about it.
And we've lost. I don't know that we have any actual quote unquote used bookstores anymore, because Grassroots sells used books, but they also sell new books, like the remaindered books, Crown books.
I do know of them, yeah.
You know, they had remaindered books where they bought up lots and they would sell them really cheap. Yeah. Grassroots does that here with remainders and then used books and a book sale like every weekend. I forget that it's scheduled. But
that's amazing growth for independent bookstores, because, you know, everybody says, oh, Amazon has killed the independent bookstore and they're closing all the time. But I mean, there's proof that the indie bookstore, I bet a lot of them though are niche. I bet a lot of them are very focused on specific, you know, very specific genres. Or
well, what we've got here, the ones that I can recall that are the newer indies here. Grassroots has been here like forever. Radical Cat has been here a long time. That's the lesbian bookstore, and they have cats, and the cats are up for adoption, which is why I've never set foot in that bookstore, because
You'd come home with all of them.
yeah. Anyway, grassroots general interest. Radical Cat, lesbian bookstore, a lot of radical stuff. We have, and this one, I forget its name. I haven't been to this one yet, but it's a small one, and I think it's called One More Chapter, and I think it's a general interest. I have an event on Saturday, a book signing event at Hollow and Quill, which is a brand new bookstore, and this is one of the niche ones. It does romance, thrillers, mystery, crime, and horror and fantasy, something like that.
You have a book signing coming up?
Yeah. Well, there was some issues, and I didn't even know until today that it was on. But yeah, this Saturday.
Fantastic.
I'll be there at 4:00 to sign books, and this is what I'm taking, and this is what I'm taking.
It'll be a Misti Media Fest.
Pretty much, yeah.
So getting back to the kid stuff.
Yes. And that's one thing that we don't have here right now. That I don't know. There is a tiny little, I think, a tiny little bookstore that's in an old school bus it's a kids bookstore. I haven't tracked that one down completely yet. But.
Oh yes, I know which one you're talking about. Yes, it's actually a traveling bookstore. Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple articles about her. Yes, she converted the back of an old school bus and turned it into a store that specializes in kids books, and she drives it to areas that normally don't have a whole lot of exposure to kids stuff.
Yeah, and there's no dearth of places like that.
Hello, Casey.
In Nevada. We got Gerlach and Winnemucca and Elko and Fallon and Fernley and Fallon, and yeah. Oh, and I'm still sad that the Mark Twain bookstore in Virginia City closed down about 7 years ago now. Just but yeah, the things are looking good for indie bookstores. Not too bad for the chains too, as they said that some of the chains were actually opening new ones. And there are a lot of issues going on because, of course, budget cuts from the federal level, where a lot of arts organizations and educational organizations are not getting their funding from, what's his name, and so the local arts districts and stuff, arts foundations, they're not getting the money that they used to get, and so there's a lot, and school districts, and so there's a lot of uncertainty there. And then, of course, the big publishers in New York, they're laying off editors and closing down imprints and cutting back, and just some of them are owned by venture capitalists. So and schools are taking what little money they're getting and putting it into technology because understand it, cutting edge. Let's see. And Pan America says that book bannings are just way up.
Book bannings are at an all-time high.
Yeah, but they say it doesn't look like. Halverson said that it doesn't look like book bans are affecting acquisitions at the publishing level.
Yeah, I mean, I know certainly. If you were to bring me, if you were to come to me and say, "Hey, Jay, I've got you talk about the book with the two gay penguins, the penguin dads, right? For the kids. If you were to bring me that book today, I would be totally fine publishing it. I mean, yeah, it helps that I'm a gay guy, but if you brought me feminist penguins, if you brought me, it's the point. It's the real world that operates around the kids, and the stuff about indoctrinating and all that. It's literally it's if that's not what you're setting out as the intention, then that's not what's going to be what comes across in the book.
And I mean, if indoctrination worked, your kids read the Two Dad Penguins and turn gay,
Ooh,
then you
yeah.
find them
Immediately upon turning the last page of the book, they would be gay. Yes.
Yeah. If that worked, then you just hand them, the Bible, and then they'll turn into pedophiles. No, wait a minute. No, sorry.
Now.
No, that's someone else. So let me get back to some more. But yeah, overall it's looking good. I mean, there's all these things, the federal budget money that they've clawed back, but the courts are saying, hey, take your filthy fingers off that money. And then there's a lot of grassroots stuff going on. We have a Sierra Arts Foundation here in Northern Nevada that just started a few years ago, including literary arts, and then they're vastly affected by the budget cuts from above, but are still looking at ways to bring in money. And that's one of the new bookstores is the Sierra Arts Depot Gallery and Bookstore, tiny little place in Sparks, and that has local authors' books in it.
Well, and public libraries have always been the epicenter of what's happening with kids. I mean, they've always done story time. It's easier to get. It's easier for a library to get a children's book author to come in than it is to get an adult fiction author in. Same thing with bookstores. It's easier for them to get children's authors because they know it'll sell. Children's authors just have more opportunities in many ways because.
And the second highest is the romance writers.
Yeah,
they're everybody wants the romance writers.
Yep.
And that's something that's interesting because romantasy is the new big category. The merger of romance and fantasy, and that's a big thing in the adult reading, but it's also huge in YA.
Really?
Yeah. And let's see.
So we're seeing a cross. We're seeing a sort of a cross pollination then of that subgenre into.
And I think a lot of it, because as Halverson was talking about the categories that are still strong, because YA is, they have the themes of making changes in the world that you're entering, and then also your own coming of age. And then the categories, contemporary, but contemporary with a touch of fantasy, and romantasy usually fits in there. Contemporary with fantastical elements, like magical realism. Horror with social media influences or with romance. Anthologies, especially horror anthologies, are doing pretty well in YA.
Really?
And there are a lot of them that are focusing on diversity. Halverson specifically mentioned one called These Bodies Ain't Broken, and it's stories of teen protagonists with disabilities making their way in the world, and each one has talks about the specific disabilities and the ways that you compensate. If you don't see well, you compensate with glasses and hearing aids. And
me, I love a good anthology, and I honestly hadn't thought at all about doing anthologies for Picarones Press, but now you got me. Now I'm thinking that's something we need to add into the mix.
I'll dig out all the. I don't remember where I got a hold of these, but I found a bunch of diverse anthologies, middle grade anthologies, and some YA anthologies, and I've been reading through those like peanuts. They are so good. The stories are so good. Real nice people.
And that's something else that I think a lot of people don't realize is how much of middle grade and young adult and new adult fiction is being read by adults, and not and because it for some reason the quality is better in many cases.
Because kids don't put up with the bullshit that adults put up with. You
Yeah.
know, you give them something crappy. I mean, come on. Would a kid have read something written as poorly as the 50 Shades?
Yeah, no. But I know that's been an ongoing trend is adults that are reading the YA and the middle grade stuff and saying that's because the worlds are better developed and the characters are better developed and more relatable than sort of repeating tropes in adult fiction.
For me, what I really like best about middle grade is the stories. It's the stories have stakes in them, and there are consequences, and there can be danger, and there can be disaster and horror, but it's not like real life. It doesn't, or YA can get pretty dark, and adult fiction, forget it. Anyway, but the middle grade, it usually things end well in some regard,
right?
Or well, very well, but and the stakes aren't horribly high, because the most of those are a coming of age as these young people. It's basically 8 to 12 or 8 to 12 to 13 years old, and they're coming of age.
Cheryl makes a comment. I also like young adult books, mostly the fantasy stuff. Cheryl, tell us who you like to read.
Authors, yes, please. So the middle grade is the coming of age and coming from being a kid at home to learning that there's an outside world that you have to fit into. And I mean, a lot of us are still wondering about how I'm fitting into that outside world, right?
Right.
So that middle grade is good in that regard. And one thing that Deborah Halverson said is that, you're asking about how middle grade does. It's kind of stagnant, which, stagnant is better than falling.
Right.
And it looks like from all the figures she's seen and from what the acquisition editors and the agents and the other people are saying, that the reality is probably better than that we're on the verge of a big upswing. Fantasy is still hot. Contemporary is good, but it needs something more than just contemporary, like contemporary humor and stuff.
Yeah, it needs to cross genre.
And light horror. And they're moving the word count on middle grade down a bit, because it had been 30,000 to 50,000 words. And now they're saying 20,000 to 50,000 words, and kind of having early middle grade because of the reading difficulties and shorter attention spans. But, we still see the books that defy the genres and that kids will read, like, that one wizardy person that I'm not fond of. Friendship themes for kids, and I mean, most adults I know are still looking for having friends. And Halverson talked about also themes of representation, people writing about their backgrounds and the diversity and all that is still hot despite what's going on.
Cheryl says fairies and dragons and Elizabeth Rudnick as one of her favorites.
Okay. And then here's a really interesting piece of information that I don't want to capitalize on, because I'd seen this as a reader, as a fan of this genre since the beginning. She said that librarians plead for I don't remember what she called it, lower Y8 or something. Anyway, middle grade is like 8 to 13 years old.
Okay.
Y8 is basically 16 to 18 or so.
Yeah.
So what about the 14 and 15-year-old kids?
They
They don't
kind of
fit into
fall in the
either.
middle.
They
The
fall in the
jam
middle.
grades. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and she was saying librarians just plead for like a lower YA or something, and I imagine that the middle grade
That
people.
is a tricky age range to write for. So
Mhm.
are you saying they're looking more for the 8 to 13s, or they're looking for that like 13 to 16?
They're looking for the 13 to 16 because I mean, if you want the book to be read by the 8 to 12 or 13, there are certain issues you just can't do, because I mean,
Right.
we're talking 8-year-olds, and I know they see it on TV because nobody's
Yeah,
using their parental
kids are
controls.
more mature now than they were, but there are still some things that you have a responsibility as a publisher not to,
Yeah,
not to put
and
forth for certain age
and
ranges.
and so this kind of needs to be a lower, lower YA, and we need to come up with a catchy name for this group.
Yeah, especially if it originates with us and everybody else takes it on, then we get control of that.
And as Misty Media and Picarones Press call it. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, like a 13 to 15 or 16, because and maybe more like 13 to 15, because there
So
are a number of protagonists that are 16 in a lot of YAs,
so what
but
so
really
what
there's
would,
nothing 13 to
because
15.
you wouldn't be able to introduce any kind of sex in 13 to 15
No,
because that's been
but
frowned on
but
until you get to 16.
you could have some like heavy petting and a lot of questioning, but you can't really
Okay.
get into the sex,
Well,
because
and I
that's
mean, and 13 to 16 is also, discovering your body age. This is,
Mhm.
the body
Yeah.
changes and things like that.
Yeah.
Puberty and
What's going on down there?
yeah. Wow, that's boy, you got a shopping list now for manuscripts.
Hmm?
This is really interesting to me,
No.
because there's so much happening here that I didn't realize going on in the
Hmm.
kids market, and there's been a lot of change. Very, very
Hmm.
interesting on where all that's going. Because
Yeah, and
now it makes me think very differently about Picarones Press. Not that I'm looking to get rid of it. If anything, I think there's more opportunity there now than I
and
think I realized.
and this is interesting. As I was taking notes, um, picture books, which I didn't even cover here because we don't do those,
Yeah.
at least yet. But picture books, there's the information about their genres that are hot and stuff. YA, this is about their genres. Middle grade,
Yeah.
there's a lot
It's the
more
sweet
going
spot.
on in middle grade, because in middle grade, the kids, the readers, they're stepping outside the house, because they've always been, first kids are 100% inside the house. Then there's house and school. And then in the middle grades, they're starting to, go other places by themselves,
Yeah.
to a store or a mall. Or I don't, I don't know the places they go. Okay. I'm very old, but, and then they're looking to
They're all
see how
hanging out at the malt shop.
uh, I'm not quite that old. I'm a trailing edge broomer, which means I'm not really a broomer, because a broomer said, "Get away from me, kid! Get away from me, kid! You bother me." So anyway, but yeah, so the middle grades are looking for more, because they don't know what they like yet. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they need. They don't know what they want, and so they're looking around at all the fiction and nonfiction to do similar things, and then they're going, "Wow!" By in the picture books, it's oh, we want fluffy bunnies, and it's adults buying them. And then the YA, it's like, okay, we're out there, it's a horror show, we got to fix it, and so that's a little more constrained too. But the
Hello,
middle grade
Terry.
is like anything can happen.
So I'm curious, when they were talking about the diversity stuff, were there any special breakout mentions of LGBTQIA, or are they just kind of keeping that all underneath that same umbrella with diversity?
um yeah, she didn't go into breaking that down, but it's still a very hot and popular and growing category, despite, upstairs, way over there in the
Yeah.
nation's capital. It's diverse titles are still hot and growing, and diverse of color of skin, ethnic background, gender or non, gender preferences, and it all. I mean, to the younger generations, it's like we are who we are. Don't
Yeah.
try to slap some label on us. We're who we are.
Well,
And
for our so it sounds like for our reseller friends that are out here watching the show, if they're looking to be successful with books, it sounds like middle grade fiction and nonfiction is where they should be, is going to be the sweet spot for resellability.
yeah,
For the
and
highest market demand, and much less so for picture books and
and because picture books, I mean, this book came out in 2001 at a cover price of $15.95. And
yeah, good luck in getting a hardback now for that.
Yeah, but that was just a huge amount, and I still see. I don't sell them as that. So I got the remainders, and I hand sell them myself. But people still don't want to pay that kind of money for picture books.
Ellen
So
says,
hard.
I really enjoyed the series Remnants by K.A. Applegate.
Oh, that's
Back
right.
in the
Yeah.
early 2000s. My son wanted to read them, so I read them first. Yeah, there
Oh,
were all
perfect, Ellen. Yes, that's the way to do it. Yeah.
K.A. Applegate, and they had another series.
Animorphs. Animorphs.
Animorphs. Yes.
Mhm.
I remember selling Animorphs like crazy, and Goosebumps by R.L. Stine.
Uh-huh.
Boy, those kids knew right when those books were coming out. And the day they arrived in the store, everybody was lined up to get those. But K. Applegate was huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I definitely remember the Animorphs. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and another place that I got a lot of my education on children's books was when I worked at Grassroots Books part-time for a few years. I worked in the children's room, and that's proportionally, that's a huge amount. Actually, I think might be the children's books are like almost half of all the books, or at least a third. Anyway, huge amount of the children's books, children and YA, and I was learning all these authors, and that I was too old to have hit the first time through, and all sorts of good stuff.
I was always reading above my grade level, which was something my mother had to go in and actually fight with the school board to get me permission when I was in kindergarten to be allowed to go and pull from the 5th grade library, because they wanted me to only read kindergarten books, and that didn't work for me. But one of my favorite authors I remember, and still is John Bellers, who I guess now you would consider him as like middle grade light horror fantasy.
Yeah.
Probably best known for a book called The House with a Clock in Its Walls that was made into a movie with Jack Black just a few years ago, and it was a fairly faithful adaptation to the book.
And that it's easier to make a movie out of a middle grade book.
Absolutely.
Oh, Magic Tree House, yeah.
Magic Tree. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But
And of course,
because the middle grade book doesn't have as all the different layers and sub layers. It's got enough layers and enough subtext, but
now that I think about it, Linda, the perfect person that fits in that 13 to 16 category is Judy Blume. So Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and
that's why those are still in print and still
Fudge and all those. I mean, that's really written like at that. I mean, that's exactly what that genre is about. Judy's books fit right into that age range.
And actually, I bet if you looked at them, I bet a lot of them are the 13 to 15s, because her middle grade ones were, and when she wrote, there weren't middle grade chapter book.
Oh yeah, no,
young adult,
no.
And
so
she was able to. But
there was no differentiating.
Yeah, and I think that's why the 13 to 15-year-olds got left out, because there's some tough stuff going on in those ages, and A lot of times the adults don't want to talk about it.
Ellen says, ditto for my daughter, Jay. She was reading chapter books by the time she started kindergarten. I was not pleased when they gave her It's Me, Margaret at age 5, though.
Yeah.
There's still a limit as to,
And I read you V.C. Andrews' Flowers in the Attic. I read that when I was in 6th grade.
I was doing Stephen King.
And
I think Stephen King for me was 6th grade, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure I started him in 6th grade.
Yeah, when I was 10 years old, my mom had to go down to the public library and chew out the librarians. It wasn't their fault. She didn't chew them out, but the administration, because I'd read everything in the children's section of that library, and except the sports books then. But I'd read everything in the children's library, and she wanted me to be able to go to the adult library, but I had to be 12. I had to be 12 years old and have a parent's signature, and I was like 10 or 11. She went down there and she said, "This is nonsense. She's going to read the books up here. Okay, what can I sign? And if I can't sign it, then you'll be hearing from somebody." And my mom was not somebody to be trifled with.
Yeah.
And so I was up there, but I was reading the 808.83, the anthologies. I've been reading and doing anthologies forever, but that's what Ray Bradbury and Robert Silverberg.
Mm.
I'm in an anthology with Robert Silverberg.
Ellen says she still can't get past chapter 3 in Cujo. Every time I try to read that one, I have nightmares. I always liked his short stories best. Yeah, I think King excels in being able to tell a big story in a short format.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cheryl says, in kindergarten, they asked me to bring books for my son to read because he would finish working and bother the kids.
And
awesome.
When I was in kindergarten, we didn't learn to read until 1st grade. It was just, it was like daycare. You had snack time and recess and nap time and then story time when the teacher read to you. Well, I didn't sit down. Nap time, I'm up there pestering the teacher, and finally she says, here's a book. Here's what the alphabet's like. At least lie there or sit there on your blanket and read a book quietly if you're not going to nap. I've never napped. And so I started reading then. It's a wonder I lived. It's a wonder I lived, because in 1st grade, when they're teaching reading, I'm going, these idiots, what do they know? They don't know how to read. And I'm surprised they didn't kill me.
My mom always told me, as long as you have a book, you will always have a friend. And
I have lots of friends.
Being the very unpopular kid that I was for pretty much my entire childhood and all the way through high school, many friends in the books. Well, Miss Linda, it is that time for us to wrap it up for another episode. God, it goes by fast. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping in and contributing. Yes. We love when everybody out there in the audience tells us what they're reading and what they like. That's what makes this show go round. Ellen says she misses card catalogs. You know what? Secretly, so do I. I was thinking about that the other day. If you haven't noticed, there is a ticker running across the bottom of the screen there. If you do have any questions, what's going on in publishing, if you want us to cover a specific topic, you have an idea for a show, you want to tell us what you've been reading, just email us at MML, that's Misti Media Live, at mistimedia.com. I will be back tomorrow night with another episode of The Night Shift. Then again on Friday with The Night Shift. Then on Monday and Wednesday and Friday of the following week. And then we will be jumping on the reseller shop hop train on the 18th. And I'll be interviewing Reich Spoor, who's got a brand new, we've got just done a reprint of a really fantastic fantasy book that sort of crosses a few genres and got a little bit of everything in there. Terry has been reading Gerald Elias's new release, Murder on Vacation, and she's really into it. Which Terry, I had a chance to communicate with Jerry today and told him you were liking it, and he wanted to know how much I paid you to say that. and can you stay on that, whatever medication you're on, could you stay on it for a while, please? Because he would really appreciate it if you make it all the way through. So thanks as always to all of you folks, and thank you very much to the reseller community who's been a very big supporter of ours. It's one of the reasons why we started tailoring a few things to try to help you guys out, since you guys return the favor so kindly to all of us. We try to turn around and tailor a little bit of this to help you guys out when you're out there thrifting and sourcing. So hopefully you can find some stuff that works for you. Linda, welcome to Picarones Press and being my new managing editor for the line. I'm really excited to have you on board and really excited to see what kind of manuscripts you bring to us. And you know what? We'll be back here with Misti Media Live in 2 weeks. In the meantime, lots of other programming coming up on our channel here over the course of the next 2 weeks. And Lynn and I will be back, and we'll see all of you then. Until then, have a really great week. Read something good, and be sure to drop us a line and tell us all about it. We love you. Take care.